Thank you so much for taking the time to have a quick chat about the film today. It must be fun for you to have something like this to get out there and have a chat about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm thrilled about Agent Game. Thanks for giving a call.
No, it's my pleasure. And I really enjoyed the film. I watched it a couple of weeks ago now, and I particularly really enjoyed that dynamic you have with Jason Isaacs. So much fun to watch you guys bounce off each other. And I was curious watching the film. Is that something you got chance to work on beforehand, or was that chemistry something you found on set in the moment?
No, quite as you said. Jason and I just met each other pretty much on the day we started filming. So I don't know, maybe it was meant to be, but we sure had no trouble locking in. Jason brought lot of knowledge, really of his own interest, I think, in terms of interrogation and all that. So that helped me a lot. Always grateful for a hand in and. Just that kind of tight shorthand that you have between those two characters seemed to come naturally to us. I had a great time working with Jason for sure in those sort of half-named characters lurking in the murky, securities world.
Yes, like I said, I love that part of the film, and that whole first act. Of course, you're in these very confined settings, and I was curious, what's it like for you getting to really explore these strong character moments in those confined settings, especially when it's a lot of big stuff that's happening in them.
Yeah, a lot of the feel of Agent Game is this compressed pressure. Some of it's in an airplane. Some of it's then in this really sort of almost gothic feeling black site somewhere in, we learn later, Kosovo. Not a big spoiler that it's Kosovo, but that's we are shooting those scenes, of course, somewhere else in the world. This time it happened to be Augusta, Georgia, which is a beautiful city, and in an old factory there. So it really, everything you see almost, and we were shooting as we found it, practical locations. So all of that claustrophobic feel or that pressure tank feeling in the movie too came from those locations. It was incredible to work with Barkhad Abdi too, who plays
Yeah.
in those scenes too. So that he brought so much to the role, and so much tension, and then so much really actually importance to the heart of the movie. So it was cool to be in those scenes too with both those actors.
Yeah, so one, like I said, wonderful part of the film, and your character in particular, Harris, he's so fascinating. I think in the sense that both we, the audience, we don't know whether we can trust him, and obviously the same can be said for the characters in the film as well. So, what's it
Yeah.
like for you getting to explore a guy like this?
Well, I don't know. The glib way of saying it is a guy that's been uh, good at being bad so long that he's lost any distinction between the two. So it's just a matter of following orders and knowing that your small part of a bigger scheme is going the way it's meant to because he's an efficient spy manager and sort of under under the radar government man. So, gosh, he gets himself in some trouble. Um, and if I'm not mistaken, that's because he's trying to do the right thing. But then again, it's one of the fun things about Agent Game is you're never sure who's on whose side, and really turns some of the bad guy old images, the icons, it turns those on their head in a way once or twice in this movie. So there's a lot to look for.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, with this sort of CIA world and these clandestine.
Sorry, I'm not going to take this. I haven't talked to Scam in a while. Been old friends with the Likely family for such a long time, but I don't have time to talk to Scam. Anyway, okay.
Appreciate you giving that up for me. That is very kind of you.
That happened right there on camera. That's my Scam Likely joke. What do you think? You can try it when you get one of those. I don't know if it
You
says
know,
that.
I'm stealing. I'll be honest with you, Dermot. I'm stealing that. So
Next time it happens at brunch, you can say hi.
going back to this film, of course, these clandestine CIA missions. Not
Ah,
so,
that's the word I was looking for. Clandestine. Thanks. You probably have it written down though, so that's
I
easy.
do. I
Yeah.
admit it.
Yeah.
But because there's not much that you can, I guess, research into these because they're clandestine for a reason. So, did you look anywhere for research, and was there anything that you found that really helped you bring this character of Harris to life?
Well, uh, gosh, I don't know. I feel like when we went to shoot this, we were really running and gunning. So
Hmm.
for me, it wasn't extended research or anything of that nature. But of course, in my mind, I think of other characters I've played too. So I, you know, that operate in this murky world. So I know about it, and let's just say I fell right into the role this time. But that's because I was in such capable hands in the script. The director, Grant S. Johnson, really gave us all a lot of confidence. And you know how the film's broken down into different parts over time. And those other parts were held down so well by the rest of the cast. Mel Gibson in kind of his part. But really, the triple threat on the plane of Katie Cassidy and Aiden Canto and Reese Quarro really really nail it in the movie. And then of course all those plots collide.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm curious, obviously, you mentioned Grant there. And given, as we said, the confined nature of a lot of these scenes, whether it be in that black site or on the plane, were you given a lot of room for maybe a little bit of improvisation to find the dynamic between these characters? Or were you sticking quite close to the script, would you say?
No, I think the script was written really well, and no, I wasn't. Yeah, I think you'd be like giving me a lot of credit if you think I could sort of improv like a spy. But other than like and stuff like that, you know, no, I stuck right to the script, and that it was written really tight. So again, the way you look at it, it'd be cutting back and forth. So sometimes those little units aren't that big, and sometimes those little units are me really kicking the ass of some, one of my adversaries and throwing him through the window. So it keeps coming at you in this film. Action, story, plot twist, and the characters ring true throughout. So I think it does a great job of all of that.
Yeah, and completely agree. And of course, talking of the action, you do get to see a fair bit of action in this film. So was there a lot of prep and training for that? Or almost like a dynamic with Jason? Was it a case of being just thrown into the thick of it?
No, that on the other hand, they were really intricately planned out and choreographed. On that day I'm mentioning, it's a basic tussle, hit, fake hit where you pretend like you get hit, and then somebody else kind of throws him through the window, sort of fight. But there are very complex stunt sequences throughout the movie too. So in terms of those, no, that's definitely also not the kind of thing. So you don't improv spy dialogue and don't improv stunts. So those are really well planned out and executed. There's a lot of firepower, obviously, but pyro too. So a lot of explosions, and we're shooting outside at night, and just all of that. Some of it's just brilliantly enhanced with visual effects, and we shot it really efficiently and super safe.
Awesome. And I'm curious, are you someone who likes to get hands-on with that sort of those fight scenes and the weapons training? Is that something you really enjoy as an actor?
Well, that to some extent I've done over the years, so that comes naturally. But in this case, we're just in really terrific stunt crew all around, so that gives you even more confidence. Um, I think I play the roles where you'd think I don't have that many stunts, and so I don't. But then what I have is the stuff that isn't a stunt, where I have to get into the hitting and the falling, basically, falling against the wall, but then they'll put a pad on your back, so forth. So there's no real, well, I won't say there's no science to that. There certainly is, but there's no secrets. I'm not really hitting the guy, etc. So since everyone knows that, that's why it's so skillfully done when it's believable. Because unlike acting, stunts, everyone knows there's an element of cinema in it. And acting, you can do it doesn't. It's not defined by those same boundaries.
Yeah, of course. And just on another note for a second, I'm not sure if you're aware, but there have been some photos floating around recently that appear to show you in the new Marvel Cinematic Universe series, Secret Invasion, alongside Don Cheadle, as people seem to think you're playing the US president. So I'm wondering if there's anything you can say about that. Or...
Oh no, I did work with Don Cheadle, and I think there's some footage from that episode of Fame in 1986 dangling out there on YouTube. So please don't watch that. Um, I'm sorry. Was there another question?
Fair enough. You can't blame me for trying. On another note, though, I know you voiced Green Lantern a few years ago in a Batman animated series.
Yeah.
So I'm just curious if those superhero projects ever come your way over the years, or if that was just a one-off.
Yeah. whatever happened to that? I think I did, a handful of episodes or so
Yeah.
forth. Did he survive? Am I okay out there? Or did somebody take over the voice? I don't know. Never really heard. So if I'm still the Green Lantern, will someone please let me know? I mean, I know I was for that brief time, and I always enjoy that. And to be honest with you, I continue to audition for animated things and advertisement commercials and so forth all the time. So it's not really where I've had my most of my success. But thank you. That Green Lantern's pretty obscure, um, except when you enter a world where there's like superheroes and so forth. I've heard. Um, yeah, I've heard it can. You know,
This is
uh,
it. As soon as you get on,
Maybe that's all I'll say. Again, maybe it's best if we, yeah,
yeah, well,
leave.
as soon as you
Give the
get on the
credit those things.
radar, well, as soon as you get on the radar of a superhero fan, they're going to follow you, even if it's something from
Right
as
on.
obscure as that.
Well, I'm blessed that way, even with the little that I have done thus far and may do in the near future or not, and other genres too. Of course, I've touched into horror, and those fans are so diehard,
Yeah.
and westerns. Of course, I'll always be grateful to those who love those movies as much as I. Thanks, for the superhero fan support too.
Yeah,
Uh,
well, you mentioned genres. Next, that brings me perfectly on to my next question. You have been part of so many genres, from obviously, like you said, horror, comedy, western. So when a project like Agent Game comes your way, is there something in particular you look for in a film like this that really appeals to you as an actor, or is it just a case by case basis for you?
Well, all of the above, definitely case by case. But when something like Agent Game comes along, I know it's not something that I've concentrated on or even really been, thought of in some of these roles, whether it's the corporate evil guy or whatever. I mean, more of those are coming to me and so forth. But, once I kind of hit my stride, especially the experience I had on Hannah, I joined already a hit series in the second season. So that was a really nice training ground to get some of that. That's on Amazon Prime. You can start at the beginning and watch the whole thing again if you want. But for me, I had a wonderful experience, and uh, so maybe in a way was really thrilled to jump back into that world from there, and happy that I'm being used that way in these roles. I love these kinds of films for sure.
Yeah, awesome. And as I mentioned before, that this character, he is very mysterious, but do you enjoy playing a character who is a bit of an enigma like this one, or can it be a struggle for you sometimes as an actor to really tap into who this person is when you know as little about them as the audience in some cases?
Yes, that's a really good question because sometimes you don't know anything, or in a situation where the series would be written as you're shooting episodes of it. In other words, you don't know yet what's going to happen to the character. But sometimes you do, so it's always an adjustment. And it does help an actor, I think, contain a performance because you can't really commit to one thing if you're not sure. So I've only found myself cold in that situation a time or two. Usually it's more of a fluid thing, and I really love that process of having some sort of give and take between the actor performing in the television series and the writer as they're writing it. So that can be at times that can really come together in a great way. So I always look for that. But more so in a film, of course, it's already written. The beginning, the middle, and the end. So that's a great type of job to approach. Also, within that, you probably have more questions about how the character behaves in the storyline and the narrative, and how much more truth you can bring to it, and so forth, because you know how it ends, basically. But on a developing television role, that has its own thrill because you're never sure what's going to happen next up.
Yeah,
Obviously.
definitely. And one final question for you. Without getting into any spoilers, the film very much leaves the door open maybe to tell some more stories in this Agent Game world. So would you like to potentially, assuming you survive this film, so again, don't want to give anything away, would you like to continue telling stories in this franchise if it would go down that route, do you think?
For sure. And, no, there's nothing in my contract on this particular project
Hmm.
that says I can't spoil everything. I could blow the whole movie for you right now. But if you're suggesting that maybe there's an Age of Game 2 coming up, it maybe gives away that potentially, hypothetically, I survive. And so I'd be totally in favor of it. Um, Any good, satisfying film in this genre, I think, leaves you with that anywhere. It kind of leaves that sort of limping, bedraggled team that can come together again to fight the next bad guy. So, hey, I hope so on this one, and it'd be great to work with this whole group and crew again. So, thanks so much. So glad you enjoyed the film.
Yeah, I really did. And I can't wait. I know it's out with you in the US. Can't wait for people to see it if they haven't already. And Dermot, as a longtime fan of your work, such a pleasure to speak to you. So thank you for taking the time today.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks so
Have a
much.
great day.